Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Jerome. I'm the design director for Design Technique. I'm going to be trying to be mindful of the time. We might be over time a little bit. Um, I'm an architect. I have an architectural background. I started my career in the Philippines. And recently, I found my new passion in signage and wayfinding when I moved to Dubai. I know that the concept or like the theme for this whole symposium is hubs and us. But I'm just gonna be running you guys through one hub. So it's just gonna be hub and us. Um, I'm gonna be talking about Lausanne Flon hub. I believe Yo talked about this a little bit. But this is more related to signage and wayfinding and not really maps per se, but it's more of like the things that are in between maps. This is more of like a micro scale. Since everyone here is talking about macro level, I'm gonna be talking about the micro level. That's why I'm just talking about one singular hub. I'm not sure. Wave thingy. Yeah. So basically, the presentation here is going to be split into three chapters: external wayfinding analysis, internal wayfinding analysis, and then we jump to the redesign of the signs. Can you go to the next page, please? Just for context, basically, this is the definition of the hub. We have Lausanne Flon in the middle. It has three lines, Metro 1 and 2. And then we have the LEB also. It's sort of like also like an electric railway, acts like a train, but it's considered sort of like a tram as well. In surrounding the Lausanne Flon, we have different bus stations. We have Mont Benon at the south. We have Saint Francois here at the right-hand side, and we have Bel Air at the top. Can we go to the next slide, please? Just raise my hand. Yeah. Here we've highlighted the different points of interest. Of course, we know that people are going to be coming from the different bus stations, but people might be coming from also the different places of interest. And after that, then we try to analyze all of the different spaces in between and how the people can access to the hub in the middle. So here we're reflecting all of the streets and even the points of access in terms of like the lifts and the stairs, since mainly this is the main issue and challenge that we faced when we tried to access the hub. Here's another view. This is basically illustrates the main issues. As you can see here, the hub in the middle it has different levels. So the access towards the hub is actually very challenging. If you were to go with the main, the flat path, which is intended more for people with disabilities, pregnant, or they have a stroller, it's easier for them since everything is going to be flat and you're going to be led towards the lift. If you go to the main path, which is has the stairs and the general circulation, that's going to be what the general users would take. As you can see here in Bel Air, there's a decision point there that's very crucial. You have to take that ramp, and that's going to be a very challenging path for you if you have if you're an old person and you're walking on a cane, if you have a stroller, anything that is it's going to be challenging for you for stairs. This sort of like ramp here is very challenging, and that's what we've talked about with John and TL team here when we had multiple workshops with them presenting all of these gaps. In the left-hand side of that one, that is mainly the main path. The flat path, because it leads towards the middle of the lifts here, as you can see here in the metro pictograms and icons. There's a couple of like lifts there that will direct you towards the stations itself. So here we wanted to show the different flows and decision points. We know that there's going to be an external circulation, journeys to and from Lausanne Flon, and then the access towards the Lausanne Flon, and basically exiting. We wanted to illustrate also the different access points from the tram, the bus stops, and from the nearby neighborhoods to the adjacent streets, and accessing Lausanne Flon to the metro station and the different platforms. And basically, it's a mirror for how you would exit out. So from the external circulation to the metro access, since this is dealing with the external wayfinding. So this is what I was talking about, the main path and the flat path. As you can see here on the main path, basically there's going to be stairs, ramps, and escalator. It's going to be tricky for pregnant people, people with disabilities, the strollers, everyone with heavy luggage. That's why they would opt to go more with the flat path, which is intended for them. This is the main issue because the information that separates both of these paths are missing. That's why we've highlighted all of these decision points. If there's an intersection of these paths, we highlight them, and we try to question them if there's actual proper information in these points. So these are the three sort of like stations that we've considered accessing towards Luzon Flown. We have the different bus stops here. We start with Bel Air. I believe there's a snippet on Yo's presentation earlier of this page. What we wanted to do here is really to unravel all of the different paths that you would take if you're from Bel Air Station. And I believe this is one of the trickier paths going in, based on Hugues and Zach's site visit. So we've highlighted all of the decision points. I'm not going to run through all of the different problems because it might take more time. And what we've done here is on these decision points, we've highlighted all the proper information because basically for us, the problem is the solution is very simple. We just have to provide the proper information and locate them in the proper places as well. So it's important for us to zoom out a little bit. The main problem really is you need to decide from far away of the hub to understand where you need to actually go. That's why we zoomed out and located all of the proper decision points and actually thought of what the actual messages would be and the correct messages on each of these decision points. This is the same exercise as what we've done for Bel Air. Basically, again, highlighting all of the different paths. As you can see here, there's different colors because these colors indicate different paths as well. Then we go to the Mont Benon as well. This one is a bit trickier also because there's like a certain stairs there that's a bit tight that you have to move and make sure that you're led to that stairs to enter the station or the hub. Again, these are like the gaps when we highlighted all of the decision points. Everything that has like that icon of the exclamation point either has a missing sign or missing information or incomplete information, and we've highlighted all of those. Out of all of these gaps, there's going to be some pain points as well, and I believe Yo explained this earlier, to highlight these pain points as much as we can because it really helps the users. At the end of the day, since we want to improve the user's experience, we really have to mention all of these pain points. And we have two here. Like after the ramp, there's no flat path. You need to make a U-turn to actually go back to the main, the flat path. And it's gonna be confusing because there's no proper information that indicates that you have to make that split at the beginning on where Bel Air is. You see that decision point there at the upper left-hand portion. We really need to make the proper distinction there of where the ramp goes down and where the flat path is. There's another one in the middle here. This is the most convenient flat path access to the metro, but the environment here is poorly lit and unwelcoming. So I believe this translates also to placemaking. At the end of the day, signage is part of placemaking. So if we have the proper sign types and at the same time the proper information on these locations, together, if we provide and improve the placemaking here, I think it's going to improve the user's experience. One more slide. And then out of all of these decision points, then we arrive at the interventions. Basically, once we've highlighted all of the gaps, we understand that there's going to be missing information. There might be missing sign types as well, and we've enumerated basically here the formula or how we've arrived at these different sign types. This is basically the interventions that we've done. This is made by us and Hugues. Some of them have been tested already. There's printouts of these signs, and we try to understand what's the reception of the users out of this one. Most of them are great, they worked, but in some instances where there's some limitations on authority approvals and something like this, there are actually places where we're told not to put some signs. And again, because there's those types of limitations, then it's a bit more restrictive for us also, and if, at the end, it affects the users. This one here, the bottom middle portion, that one was very well liked. because it provides lots of information for the users. Basically, we provided everything that they need at that bus shelter, and you can see it from afar. That's why it was very helpful for the users. All of these sign types are part of the external sign types. If you can see here, the one in the upper right-hand portion, that is DR03. That is where the split happened on Bel Air, where we wanted to inform the users of the split of the main path and the flat path. The issue was we wanted to have something that's like a totem sign, but then again, like I told you, that there was limitations and we weren't allowed to make a totem. That would have been great if we had a totem so that you can see it from afar, but you really have to move up close to see this split. So we'll try to iron it out with Jean. Can we go to the next one, please? And then on the location plans, basically out of all of the lists that we've had, we wanted to put some signs on a macro scale so that when you step down of your bus and you're within the bus shelters, there's already information for you leading you towards the hub. And then when we go to the micro scale, then we're also showing the different sign types required on all of these decision points. Then we go to the internal signs. We start with the analysis again. Again, this is a bit less complex than the external ones because really the tricky part for the external is to lead them towards the hub. But then once you're in the hub and you can ensure that everything is properly placed and the correct information is there, I believe you can lead the people towards the proper destinations and different platforms. So now that the sort of like challenging part is done, then we go to the internal signs. We're showing here different access points, the lower and the upper access, and even showing the different types of access: stairs, ramps, escalators, and lifts. Here's where it gets a little bit tricky also in terms of like the diagrams, but it's the same exercise as what we've done for the external. We're just highlighting all of the different access points and the different platforms, entry and exits, and the different basically paths within the station. In terms of like the platforms and the levels as well, we're highlighting where you can actually access them if you want to go to specific metro stations, M1, M2, and the LEB. For M2 and LEB, you can access it only on the lower most level, and then on level 0 is where you can access M1. Again, we're highlighting all of the decision points, all of the intersections of different paths, and basically where you can access these different levels. Same diagram, same logic. Again, we're only focusing on the middle portion since we're just doing the internal. Yeah. So again, there's going to be the different decision points. We checked each of these decision points and again assessed if there's incomplete information or missing information, and that's what we're going to supply. This is basically a simple diagram of the journey from the access points to the platforms, and the journey between the platforms, and the journey from the platforms towards the exit. Again, like what we did from the external, we've highlighted all of these decision points and assessed what would be the proper messages on each of these decision points. What we are reflecting here in terms of like the design as well is the latest one and what we are proposing for the hub. As you can notice here, we focused really on the blue and the whites because we want to highlight the icons of the different lines as well. So here we're just running through the different journey simulations from all of the metro and all of the lines. And this is basically the exits as well. In terms of like the gaps, like I mentioned, if there's anything missing in terms of like the information, and the major pain point as well, wherein there's some physical barriers hiding the access points or exit points leading towards the different platforms in this situation. Yep. And then we end with the internal sign types again, in terms of like the coding. And basically this is what we've designed so far in terms of like the interventions and the sign types. We have different sign types inside. We have pedestrian directional sign. This one is a freestanding element. This is mainly required in front, inside. We have an overhead directional sign also. Some of the signs here really are missing, and we are introducing new sign types to improve the circulation inside the station or the hub. And then basically the sign location plan of all of these sign types. Then we jump to the signage redesign. Since we sort of like understand the context of both the external paths and the internal paths, now we can talk about how the design came to be. In terms of like designing signage, in terms of like these transit hubs, we tend to be more simple. It needs to be less creative and a bit more universal, since we are expecting everyone to understand the signs. That's why all of the signs here are designed simply. We start with the arrows, the different icons, and the different colors as well. In terms of like the font, we opted to go with Frutiger. It's a very nice font, very simple as well. Colors, like I mentioned earlier, simple, just two colors, blue and white. And of course, the special colors for the different lines. The logo here of TL and also this brand was a bit of like an inspiration also for us when I run through the freestanding elements later, because this is basically the only shape that we have that can dictate the signs, the design of the signs. And we sort of took this and ran with it. This is the existing TL signs. When you go to the next one, we're also going to compare that with the CFF signs. And we want something in the middle. That's why we opted to have something designed like this for the redesign for Lausanne Flon. It could have different variants in terms of like the scale of it, small, medium, large. Again, same. If we have like the different lines, different pictograms, if we have the letters for the platforms, and basically different sign types inside as well. Suspended signs, wall-mounted signs. We even played with an icon for how the hubs could be reflected. This is an exercise that we've done. And then the freestanding elements, the elements within the bus shelters that we've printed out as well and tested. This was done by Hugh also. This is what I was talking about in terms of like the totem sign and how the brand mark sort of like became the inspiration for the shapes of the freestanding elements. It could be something very flat, or we thought of something also where it could be four-sided. We think that this is enough design input wherein it still could look universal. That's why we opted for this simple design. If you can see here at the top, there's hierarchy in terms of like the information, where we have the top as the beacon. In the middle, you have different lines. And at the bottom is where you would have the wayfinding messages. Even on the buses as well. Sorry, it's fine, you can continue. Also on the lifts, which is very important, specifically on Lausanne Flon, since we have like these different two lift lobbies. This is just a photo of a photo setting that we've done that could sort of like be related to what we have there at the bottom left-hand corner. So we have the name of the station, we have different directional information as well, and everything is in simple, very block sort of like design, so that it's sort of like universal, but at the same time you understand that this is like a proper metro sign. Then we end with the line maps, both horizontal and vertical. Yeah. Yeah, I hope that was like very simple and fast. I really try to be mindful of time. But yeah, for just to close, like I really want to show you guys the sort of like behind the scenes of how science can come to be. I understand that everyone is doing maps, but for us, we're also part of like maps. When you see a sign pasted on the wall, there's lots of thinking also behind those messages. So yeah, I'm just running you through the design process that we've done in terms of like signage and wayfinding. So yeah, thank you for your time.